if I allow my experiences with police officers to say, I'm not going to be a police officer because of the way I was treated, I wouldn't be a police officer today. So we have to be able to overcome our experiences and realize how important it is to be police officers in the community.
Hello, everyone. That is the voice of Sergeant Paul Finch of the New Haven Police Department. He is here with the Assistant Chief, Bertrand Etienne, to talk about their efforts to get more minorities onto the police force. My name is James Walker. Thank you so much for joining us again this week. Let's get right to this very important conversation.
Good morning. I'm Assistant Chief Bertrand Etienne of the New Haven Police Department. I currently oversee the Investigative Services Division and Internal Affairs Division.
And Sergeant?
Good morning. My name is Paul Finch. I'm a sergeant in charge of the Recruitment and Backgrounds Unit.
And we're here today to talk about the recruitment of Black officers and why this seems to be a problem. In doing research for this podcast, I was shocked to learn that since the recession, which is around 2007, 2008, the number of Black people in the police force has dropped dramatically. And right now they're comprising just a little over 11%. So Sergeant, tell us what's going on here.
I believe what you see is just people are a little reluctant to become police officers just because they know that we have a tough job to do, and they know that they can see through social media, they can see through the news what's in front of them if they apply. I believe that we're in a day where we have to have more conversations as police officers in the communities to give them a hands-on explanation of why you should apply, why it's important to apply, why it's important to join your community, and be police officers in your own community. It's one thing to hear it in the news and apply in the news or on social media, but when you do that hands-on approach and you have that relationship, I think you may see a difference. But that's what it's going to take. It's going to take building the relationship.
And Chief, why do you think it's so many young Black men are reluctant? I mean, we see what's going on in our communities. We know the value of diversity on the police force. All of us want to see more Black policemen and women in uniform. And yet, based on my research, that's not happening. So there's got to be something more than a personal connection. So what do you think it is?
So, I think the sergeant explained it quite eloquently, but what I would add to that is that there has been a long narrative that police and law enforcement is not good. It's bad. And I think a lot of people have been listening to that over the last couple of years. So now we've become an unpopular team.
Right now, 11%. What is the percentage of the minorities in the police force in New Haven?
So total minority is 42%, but that's a combination of women and the minority. So altogether, it makes, actually the total minority is 42%, and then when you include women, it's an added 18%. So the total minority with females included is 50% of the police department.
Well, that's not a bad percentage. Based on my research, that's a very high percentage of minorities in the police force. So maybe the question is, what is New Haven doing right to have that percentage of minority police officers on the force?
I will say that we are we do have a relationship, and we're trying to be relatable as far as um, going out into the actual communities, going door to door. We have weekly training sessions where we actually are there and we are a resource for people. I think the biggest thing you can do is, I'm first generation police officer for my family, so I didn't have a resource at home, or that I could rely on as far as to learn what the job is all about to prepare myself. So here it is what I think is important is that we have the resource for young men and women in the community to be able to come to us, answer any questions they may have, and help them through every step of the process. We offer a free training sessions on every Sunday and every Wednesday, where here it is, you have police officers that train with you. So that way you're working on that relationship from the very beginning. Because once you apply, the next step is that physical agility test.
Now, you say you're going door to door. How is the public responding to you when you knock on their door recruiting for the police department? Are they kind of like, no, we don't want to be bothered, or whatever? Almost like when you guys are trying to get information on the latest shooting and nobody knows or has seen anything. Are you getting that kind of reaction?
It's a mixed reaction, because you do have some people that are not interested at all, and based upon their experiences with the police, they say no, it's not for them. They will take the information and pass it on to someone else, but a lot of times there is you spend time breaking down the barrier first, and
Mm-hmm.
then helping them realize how important it is for them to get involved, and be a part of it. And that sometimes is what we do a lot of, breaking down the barrier. I myself, if I allow my experiences with police officers to say, I'm not going to be a police officer because of the way I was treated, I wouldn't be a police officer today. So we have to be able to overcome our experiences and realize how important it is to be police officers in the community.
But for a lot of young people, and let's be frank, a lot of young minorities in urban areas, they don't really see good police. And let me explain to you what I mean by good police. What they see a lot are their families being arrested, their friends being arrested. They see a lot of that. How do you counteract that so that they understand? Because when you're 10, it's hard to see the police officer as a professional man who is protecting the community. What you see is the police officer coming to arrest someone that you love. How do you balance that so that you're seen as the good guy, not the bad guy?
Well, that has to come through our community efforts, where we are spending time in the schools, through our SRO program, because here it is. Those are opportunities to where kids are seeing police officers in a positive light in the schools. Yes, they're there to protect. They're there sometimes to provide counsel, sometimes to just give advice, sometimes to encourage a student. So here it is we need to do as much of that as possible, to where through our PAL program, we have a jujitsu program right now where you know uh, young kids are learning martial arts. So there is positive resources, and you see positive police officers through that. Now, unfortunately, there are times when a police officer may have to come and arrest a family member, and it could also be our job to in situations like that also be positive and do our job with respect, do our job the right way, so that way, even if we have to make the arrest, we're doing it properly.
What do you say to people who say that police come in aggressively and not passively, so to speak, and try to gauge the whole situation before they become aggressive? And another question I want to ask, I'm going to direct this to the chief. There seems to be, based on my research, kind of the morale is kind of low right now with police officers because they feel that they're taking heat for protecting the community. Would you say morale is low at the New Haven Police Department?
I think that right now morale is not in a bad spot. It's kind of hard to gauge that depending on who you're talking to. I think overall, due to some certain incidents that we had in the recent past, morale may be a little low, but overall, our part is pretty good.
Okay. And again, Chief, you're coming in and out. We're missing some words. I'm not sure what's going on. I think most people are going to be able to understand what you just said, but I just want to make you aware that you are still coming in and out. So, what would you like to see? What would you consider to be a good representation in terms of gender and in the police department, gender and minorities? What would be a good ratio to you? Because right now you're telling me you're around 50%, which I think, according to what I've read, is outstanding, actually. So what is ideal for you guys? And that question could go to either one of you. Chief, why don't you try?
Can you hear me?
Yes.
So I think we need to do more target recruitment and going out there and looking for those young minority men and women to get on the job. They're out there. I know the narrative is that a lot of them don't want to be police, but I don't think sometimes that's a fair statement. They're out there. We have to go out there. We have to show them that we want them. We have to make the job appealing again. And there's a way to do that through target recruitment. Sergeant Finch is doing a really good job with that, and I think that's why our numbers are where they are. But we can always increase them through target recruitment.
One of the things I'm wondering is pay. Um, Police pay is kind of low, basically, for the work you guys do. I mean, when you consider the fact, as people say, you run to danger. The pay scale is kind of low. What do you guys do? You think that has anything to do with recruiting? People kind of say, "Wait a minute, you're going to shoot at me, and I'm only going to make $45,000 a year, or whatever the case may be." Do you think that that has a lot to do with maybe lower recruitment levels? And either one of you can take that question.
So I do think pay has somewhat of an effect on recruitment. I don't think that's the total reason. I think the bigger issue is just the narratives over the last few years that have made police officers look like the demon. Once we change that narrative, I think people will look past the pay because you still can earn an honest living. You can raise a family, you can send your kids to college, you have a nice home. There's still good pay. It could be better, yes, but I don't think that's the number one reason to why recruitment is low. I think we have to change the narrative of how the overall public believes, and then that will cause people to want to become police officers more.
I just want to tell people that we recorded this conversation 2 days before the deadline to apply, but that shouldn't stop anyone who is interested in becoming a police officer. There is definitely a need for more minorities on the police force so that it reflects our communities. And for those of you who are interested or know someone who may be interested, you can contact Paul the Sergeant at pfinch at newhavenconnecticut.gov. Let me repeat that, pfinch at newhavenconnecticut.gov. Keep in mind that Connecticut is abbreviated CT, so that's newhavencT.gov. And also, I want to remind people we're always looking for subscribers to our channel. We'd appreciate it. It doesn't cost you anything. All you have to do is hit the subscribe button. If you do want to support us financially, you can go to anchor.fm and go to our page there and support us to keep this podcast going. We would certainly appreciate it. Now let's get back to our police officers and hear what they have to say. Now that narrative, go ahead, Paul.
And I will say that I think I can speak for many officers. Not everybody comes to New Haven for the pay. They come because of the opportunities. Because we are a bigger city, there's a lot more opportunities, a lot more room for growth, a lot more room for advancement than there is in smaller towns that pay more money. So here it is. If you want to join a specialized unit like a SWAT team, a K9 unit, a dive team, become an SRO. We have so many units where, because we're a large department, it's not one or two people in those units. It's multiple people in those units. So there's a lot of room for you to just do so many different things. After 3 years, you can test to be a detective. So here it is you can get further in your career in a smaller amount of time at our department versus maybe a smaller department that may pay you more.
I'm wondering if maybe more of the narrative when you go out to recruit people, if more of the narrative should be toward those other opportunities in the police force, because I'm not sure that a lot of people recognize, say, SWAT and so forth as opportunities. I just know that for a lot of these young men, I would think that putting on a police uniform as opposed to putting on a Burger King uniform and staying there for the next 20 years would be worth it to them. So maybe the narrative does have to change, and you have to be a little bit more welcoming and, so to speak, when you're out there recruiting, so that they see. I see Black police officers as pillars, and I don't think right now you're seen as pillars, at least based on what I hear and what I see. And I've seen personally, like I'm on the green, and I see people just totally just disrespect officers. It's just I've seen them spit on officers, which I find, just is crazy. Where does that come from? You guys definitely don't deserve that. So why do you think that? Is it because you take people who commit crime off the streets? Is this why you're being spit at? Why do you think that is? Because that helps that narrative of not becoming a police officer.
So I think it goes back to what I said previously. You know, over the history of law enforcement, we've done some things that weren't nice. And I think that we have, in the recent past, we've done a better job at recognizing where we've gone wrong and making a lot of attempts to not to repeat those mistakes. But I think more times than not, people paint us all with a broad brush. There are thousands of police officers in the United States of America. And on a daily basis, there are hundreds of thousands of encounters with the police and the public that people don't hear about. So we have to understand we can't paint all of us with a broad brush. It's not fair to the officers who come to work every day and do the right thing and do right by the community and don't abuse their authority. And I think we need to show that more. I think folks need to understand that we're human. Those of us who make mistakes or act outside of the color of law, they'll be held accountable through due process. But the overwhelming majority of us is doing the right thing.
Yeah, and I think, believe it or not, I think most of the public would probably agree with that majority of police officers are doing the right thing. But when they do the wrong thing, you're right. It paints a broad brush across all police officers because you do have that authority. What's next in this recruitment level? First of all, how is the recruitment level recruiting going for the New Haven Police Department? If it's low, what do you plan to do to up the stakes, so to speak?
So our recruit last year we recruited 523 people applied. And we were, we always want more, but we were pleased with that number. We most likely won't reach that number this time around. So I believe we have to look at quality over quantity. And what I mean by that is actually taking the time out with these applicants and giving them as much knowledge as we possibly can. With a lower number, you can actually, well, if they come to our training sessions, I'm there, other officers are there, so we're that resource. And here it is if we want to be the resource for every step, but it takes a willing applicant that wants to be there, because after you apply, you got to pass a physical agility test. You got to run a mile and a half. You got to do the push-ups, the sit-ups, 300-meter sprint. That's when we see our numbers drop off, because you see less of a commitment for some people,
Right.
And here it is this is why we put this training sessions in place, to hope that people stay committed throughout the process. So, and we also want to just kind of shorten the whole actual application process from start to finish, because here it is when you think about all the police departments around the state, we're all fishing in the same pond. And
Yeah.
it's a race to who can, hire the person the fastest, but still do a thorough job in the background process, um,
Well, you just answered a very a question I was going to ask, because again, as part of my research, I find that there are many Black applicants, but they don't make it through the process. They drop out at some point, and they pointed out the physicality of it. Some didn't realize the intense training that goes into being a police officer. It's not a matter of being hired and you put on a uniform and suddenly you're out walking the beat. There's a extensive training going on here. That training is valuable. And I would assume that it kind of separates those who really want to be officers and those who are just kind of looking for the paycheck and the glory of putting on the uniform. So you've slimlined this process. Do you expect better results or better candidates now that you have done that?
Yes, I do. And I can say that speaking from the experience of actually going to the weekly training sessions and actually interacting with the candidates.
Mm-hmm.
Um, I believe that we have a solid pool of applicants that I believe will get good numbers from, just because of what I've heard, what I've seen, their commitment level, and it's refreshing to me. But here it is too, and to what you were saying about just the applicants as they go through the process. You got to pass a polygraph exam. You got to pass a psychological exam. And here it is it's standards, it's integrity. Do you have integrity? Here it is if you have some things going on in your past, you have to be open. You have to be honest about that. So that way, we can make a very good assessment on how we move forward with you as an applicant. Um,
Chief, talking about backgrounds, for a lot of young Black men who have made some critical mistakes in their youth, how does that hamper many of them? I'm not talking about, obviously, guys who've been out there and, drug dealers, shooting, and so on and so on. Obviously, they can't become police officers. But are there mistakes or people with records who can move on beyond that and become police officers?
the first thing I expect is just transparency, being very open. You have applicants that sometimes are not very proud of their past, but it did happen, and you can't. Oh, sorry.
That's okay.
You can't act like it didn't happen. So it's best to be honest, come forward, straightforward, and let's talk about it. And here it is. We do have applicants that move forward in our process with having a past where they may have committed crimes, had criminal activity. And here it is obviously you can't have any felony or misdemeanor convictions. Everything is on a case to case by basis.
Right, but unless they come and unless they sit down and talk, because I found out that a lot of these young men think that some of the things that they've done they cannot overcome, and unless they come and talk to you, they don't know if there is an opportunity there or not. Maybe not an opportunity for a police officer, but maybe there's an opportunity somewhere in the police department. There are other opportunities there other than just, putting on the uniform. Let me ask you, is there anything that I have asked, because we're running out of time, is there anything that I have not asked you that you want to get out to the public?
Yes, so I will say that the application deadline is September 2nd. So you have to apply by September 2nd. And I'll just add in there that when I spend time in the community, you ask people, you be real with people and say, how much money did you make last year? You know what I mean? Because at the end of the day, we can talk about all the great stuff that, you know, New Haven Police Department has to offer, but here it is. A lot of times you're trying to provide for yourself. You're trying to
For your
provide
family.
for your family. Um, and this is I'm proud of this job because it's allowed me to provide. I have a wife and 3 kids, you know, and I'm proud of what this department has offered me and what this career job has offered me to be able to help alongside my wife provide for my family, honest living. You know, I don't have to live paycheck to paycheck. Let's just be real. I don't have to live
Yeah.
paycheck to paycheck. If my car breaks down, I can fix my car. You know, I'm able to live a life to where I don't have as much worry. And here it is. I'll tell you one thing: to apply, all you need is a high school diploma or GED. Now
And
imagine, and 21 years old, you know? So here it is you can start your career at a very young age, maybe not have chose to go to college, maybe you took an alternate route. And here it is this job could be for you, you know?
and I think that's important for what you've said is important for a lot of young people to understand. You have a high school diploma. Okay, you don't have to stay at a fast food restaurant making minimum wage if that or fighting to get to a decent wage. There are opportunities out here. The police department is certainly one of those opportunities. Gentlemen, I really appreciate you coming on today and talking with us. Chief, I'm so sorry that you had problems with your audio. Maybe we can get you back on at a different time in a better situation and talk to you then. Meanwhile, thank you very much for coming on. You guys have a good day and have a safe day.
You as well. Thank you.
All right.
Thank you for having us.
You've been listening to Real Talk, Real People. If you would like to be on the show, if you have an idea for the show, give us a call at 203-605-1859 or drop us an email at realtalkrealpeoplect@gmail.com. You folks have a good week and we'll talk again next week.